Today on the show, I am joined by Mr. Scott Mitchell. I have spent quite a bit of time hassling this guy and encouraging him to join me here. Scotty, thank you for making the time. Thank you for doing your hair, and thank you for making your lighting setup so gorgeous.
I thought I'd put that a little bit of extra effort in, you know?
Well, I did think that. I noticed that as a man that is now a brand ambassador for cameras and things, due to what you do in your professional life, I sort of said to you, mate, you can just send it and record it on your phone, and you're like, oh, blasphemy.
No, I can't do that. I cannot do that. I've got all the gear, and I thought, it would not be good to rock up with just a phone. Poorly exposed, terrible audio, can't do that. I can't do that to you.
I appreciate that. Whereas here's me, I will actually have to include a photo of how low budget and dodgy my setup is from this side. I have a webcam sticky taped to a little post thing, and a thing up over here, because I was saying to you that I've been in the midst of setting up this new studio. And look, you're the first interview in this fancy new studio of mine, but this is basically just the back of my office at home. So
we don't say it's your studio.
So welcome to my studio, to the back of my office at home. I even put some trinkets on the shelf. My wife would be like, God damn it, why are you putting trinkets on the shelf? I told you not to put things there, because I collect all the dumb things. And I used to have
they're not dumb, mate. They're not
to
dumb.
stash them in. I think they're cool. Scotty, for people who may not be as old as you and me and might not be familiar with how cool you are, mate, what's your day job? Talk me through a little bit about Scott Mitchell today.
A day job.
Yeah.
I get out of bed. I sometimes, have a shower, put some clothes on. No, but seriously. So I am a full-time self-employed sole trader, freelance videographer, photographer, editor. Editor, I guess. I try to avoid editing other people's work, but one-man band. I pretty much film, shoot, and do everything myself. And I sometimes wish there was multiples of me so I could not have to pay the other Scots, but still have the same, same line of work sort of happening. So, I cover a bit of, everyone knows me for automotive, drifting, a lot of drifting, too many years of drifting. Weddings, I had a wedding business on that one as well. Had a good 7 years there. But yeah, I shoot a lot of video, a lot of photo.
I also remember the times where you were the dude at the bar. What was that place called, mate? It was like you lived there.
Mona Pub.
Mona, that's the one. You were Mona after dark.
Yep.
It was you holding the roof up.
I was the photo guy, that Mono guy. Yeah, it was pretty much turned 18, straight to Mona Pub. Thursdays was the biggest night for Mona, and I just kept taking my camera because I always have my camera on me, and they had I'm trying to remember what they like, monkeys. It was like pretty much a couple of girls running around with a really basic point and shoot camera, and they would take horrendous photos, or good enough for socials back then. But I just kept hassling and said, I'll come in, I'll do some flash, take some good photos and stuff. And eventually they started hiring me, and then pretty much like religiously every single Thursday for a good three years or more, actually more. I'm trying to think back, but I shot the photos, and then when I got home, the brain was still wired, so I'd start importing, and then I'd almost cull the photos, edit the photos, and upload them by 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So everyone would wake up, Friday morning, getting ready for work, and then blah blah's tagged you in this photo. They'll go to the photo and they'll be like, delete, that's not my boyfriend. All that sort of stuff like that. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I felt like I was in my element. I running around, I met so many people through all of that. You know, got to little celebrity sort of status, going behind the DJ booth, hanging out, all that sort of stuff. The free drinks were good. Free drinks were always good. But yeah, I loved it. It was I looked forward pretty much every Thursday. It was just a real good hype.
Just a good night out, and you got to do something you enjoyed.
And paid. Like it was a
That's-
win-win for everything, you know. Yeah.
Mate, that's a tick in every box. The only thing that hurts is as you get older, that becomes more complex.
Yeah, I've had a few like catch ups with old mates from way back then, and we both come to like the conversation of we kind of we missed Mona, like a good Thursday night. Like imagine if you could, like, at this age now, be able to go back in time for one Thursday of the year and just go back to that time period just to relive it again. And
just let her rip.
Oh yeah, the cares of everything else. You didn't have mouths to feed, house to hold up top above your head, sort of thing. So yeah, it was responsibilities were out the window.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Just looking at this, making sure that this is actually still recording. Luckily, it's recording there, but yeah, my life is just difficult.
Yeah.
Mate, this
Are you happy with that intro?
Yeah.
I kind of just lost my train of thought with that one.
Here's the best part, mate. Even that bit stays in. I don't copy it. I don't edit this. I just top and tail it, just so that you're aware. Now, Scotty,
you blip out all the fucks and shit.
No, mate. This is just literally top and tail. Like the stamp, send it. Mate, I met you doing drifting. That was, I think, and I can't remember if I'd probably seen all your stuff on the internet beforehand, because it would have been 2010 thereabouts, 2010, 11, 12.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. It's around that sort of time.
Yeah, I think about 10. I think when the ADGP, Andrew Hawkins was, that was, you were following Rob White with his 350.
That's the one.
I think I can't remember if it was Simon Plains was the
Tassie is where I remember.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the first one. Yeah.
ADGP round one was where I got to meet you, not just on the internet, because you have always been based sort of Sydney, New South Wales, Northern Beaches, and so travelling like Hit and Run Drift Club were the things that they were your mates that you were rolling with, and then Mr. Hawkins helped to facilitate a national series after the collapse of the Australian, what was it, D1GP, if they called it.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to actually remember what it was actually called.
Drift Australia. Drift Australia. That was the one.
Yeah. Because Bo Yates, I'm thinking of all of what the team's called.
Mate, Team Pier. That's
it. Team Pier, yep.
Old school, and this was sort of the second of what is now the old school. Hilariously, is I look around and we've all got a couple of kids and family wagons and sensible things, but at that point in time, we were just whippersnappers that were like, "How sick is this? We're doing motorsport," and it was a good time. And you were just making videos that were off their head, because it was harder at that point in time. Gear was more expensive, stuff was more difficult. There wasn't an extraordinary library on YouTube the way that there is in the year 2024. The Ronin didn't exist, gimbals didn't exist, like all these things didn't exist. Like the closest, do you ever remember what were you shooting on back then? Like 5D Mark II was the turning point for me in being able to shoot video at around that point in time. What were you tinkering with at that point?
I was when I was back at Mona Pub. It was 5D Mark II, and I think the video you could only really do, I think 25. I don't know if it was 4K back then, but no, it was certainly only 1080.
1080 in 30 minutes is what I remember. It had a lockout at 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I think when I started shooting drifting with the Hit and Run guys out at Eastern Creek, I I was only taking photos, and I wasn't enjoying it. Like any of the photos was coming back, I was like, oh, whatever, this is boring. I'll try a bit of video, see what it comes out like. And first couple of events, I thought it was fucking terrible, but the boys watching it were absolutely loving it. They were like, "Oh yeah, we've got another event coming up here. Let's go do this." And I was actually really enjoying capturing not just the drifting, but like the event itself, like the journey of getting there, the car prep beforehand, all the boys sort of hanging out. Because whilst it is a drift event, it's also a social event. A bit of a gathering sort of thing. So I just felt, capturing the whole event versus just drifting, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I met, once again, met plenty of people through the drift scene. And I guess Instagram and all that sort of stuff weren't that big back then, so everything was just going straight onto YouTube, and just just picked up from there. And I think we did a few different mat series, Winton mat series, called a park down in Melbourne before the ADGP, before I met you properly, met you officially in person down at Simmons Plains for ADGP. But yeah, I think at that point when I met you, I had moved over to Sony. My long mate, what is a long mate? A long-term mate, Tony Crook, who used to work at Sony Australia. He had an R33 Skyline. He was mates with Jack Druitt, so he'd come to a few events here and there. And he's like, "Why are you using this piece of crap Canon? Come on, Sony, get on this Sony, mate." I was like, "Oh, I've got Canon lenses, all this sort of stuff like that." And like, "Oh, just run an adapter. You're all, Back then, manual focus was everything. Autofocus for video was not a thing.
Didn't exist.
Yeah, so I started mucking around with like the little Sony action cameras, the little black ones that only did 1080 from that one. And then eventually he came to me with a Sony NEX. It was kind of pretty much like a handy cam, but a full frame handy cam that you could detach lenses off. It wasn't like a full-time handy cam. And that changed everything. Being able to shoot on that was fantastic. Big thanks to Sony and Tony. Well, big thanks to Tony for that one to get me started on Sony now. Yeah, Tony and Sony.
Because that was early days too. The thing that people wouldn't realise now is that there were only two choices back then, and they were Canon and Nikon. And Sony was like, "Hey, look, we're doing these things," and it was just this third choice that didn't exist in people's minds. So that was very cutting edge to actually be stepping onto Sony at that point in time.
Yeah, there was no A7, no FX, to jump across with that one. So to try a completely different camera, learn the whole menu settings and stuff. Yeah, so but yeah, definitely glad that I did.
Yeah, well, that's panned out all right for you, because when they released that camera that could see in the dark, I still remember seeing that A7 and going, "What is this voodoo? How can this thing see in the dark?" And again, people who didn't live through the technology evolving, they're now annoyed that their phone can't have 300 megapixel, 40,000 zoom. It's actually like boomers and their bloody lenses is what we sound like now with our camera phones. But you couldn't push above 800, 1200 ISO, and it would be grainy, like with purple and just magenta everything. Like it was garbage. You couldn't use this stuff at night. Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And so that changed the game.
That first one was changed
the game. And that was the thing. You were on the front foot for that. And I actually saw something you posted the other day, and it was some ridiculous S14, and you were doing a tracking car. You were doing some tracking shots with it. And I'm like, it's got that Scotty Mitchell magic on it, just that little sprinkle of something. And that was the thing, was your take on all that stuff and the whole experience and the whole thing. There was nobody else in Australia doing that at that time in that way. there were things that we would see coming out of Formula Drift in the States. And there were a couple of people that were shooting on their digital video cameras back then and
Yeah.
making interesting things. But here in Australia, we just weren't seeing the sort of stuff that you started creating.
Yeah. Well, I going back, I actually took huge inspiration from Wreckham, Sam Meredith. So he I think it was Josh Coote down at Winton in his White S13, and Mez had put a song over the top of it, and I don't know how many times I had watched that one video just with that song matched onto it, and I just loved it. And loved Mez's style. Watched plenty of his videos and all that sort of stuff, and I just you know to shout out to Mez going back then,
Mate,
big thank you
Wreckham,
to
that's
his,
like
yeah.
proper OG.
Well, that's going well back.
He was an old man before we got started in these things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so but yeah, just the way that it was more of a, it wasn't, not to say it wasn't like a professional level, where everything
No.
was very fixed on a tripod or doing stuff like that. It was running around, having a bit of fun. And I just loved how, I guess, casual it was. So
Don't know
I got a
about
lot
you.
of
Did you
inspiration
ever?
for that.
I was always really inspired by VHSs that I used to watch, like Krusty Demons of Dirt, Biggest Wednesday, and like skate videos, like stuff that was almost like the graffiti style video documentary of,
Yeah, doco style.
yeah, where they were just running around with, like, they'd stolen mum and dad's camera and they were just filming shit and then they'd edit it to like punk music. And I'm like, this is the maddest stuff I've ever seen. And
Well,
that
I never really
still speaks
watched
to
any of
me.
that stuff.
See, I'm probably
Like
too old for you as well.
no, no, no. Back then, I was a massive nerd. So I was playing a lot of computer games and shit a lot throughout high school. So I
Same.
never actually watched any Crusty Demons, any other motorsports, surfing. As much as my dad tried to, get me into the surfing and stuff like that. Yeah, I never watched any
Wasn't your
motocross.
vibe. There you go.
Yeah, it
You
didn't.
missed out because
It wasn't. Yeah,
I felt you had that spirit,
yeah,
that energy of that sort of style of stuff. And I guess that you came about it the same way that they did, where they're like, this is a fucking good time with your friends. I know how to hold a camera and I don't mind putting it together. Let's go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%. That's how it's always. There's never been a structure or a game plan to it. Just camera, mates, go to an event, and then just film just about
Send it.
everything that happens. You
Yeah.
don't put the camera down and have a bit of a break. Like, I enjoy it way too much to just put it down or go to an event without the camera sort of thing. I feel kind of naked when I go somewhere and I don't have a camera on me. You get people like, "Oh, where's your camera?" And like, yeah. So it's pretty much attached with the hip.
Becomes one and the same. Now, you've helped me segue into where this podcast is inevitably going. You weren't always a rock star cinematographer with such good hair, beard, and lighting. Mate, you grew up Northern Beaches, born and bred in that area?
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, born and bred. Yeah, Avalon on the northern beaches there.
so you're
Mum and
right near
dad.
Summer Bay, is my understanding. Like Alf and the Flaming Galahs are somewhere near
Yeah.
you.
Yes. Yeah. Way too close. There's plenty of times
Fantastic.
that you'd go up to Palm Beach and they'll have all of their trucks up there taking up all the parking spots just to film a couple of scenes with Alf. So
Unreal.
yeah.
And so you're just used to
Never.
that, aren't you, mate? It's just always been just casually stars in the eyes. Did you ever get an extra spot? Did you ever accidentally stroll in the back of a
No, I didn't.
wasted opportunity there?
I could have easily just photobombed a lot of things. We did a lot of photobombing at Mona Pub. I thought it would have been hand in hand, but yeah, never really did it. But
No safer home and
going
away.
back,
Huh?
yeah, going back into the early days of my life, I had a family friend actually got me doing a little bit of like modeling, I guess, for few different ads. I'm trying to think of the show. It's a
This is
show like
amazing, by the way. This is amazing.
way back.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Country Practice.
Oh,
You ever remember that?
I
Like, I know
sure
that's
do, mate. That
yeah,
was a
yeah.
staple on the small
Yes,
screens.
I had, I don't know how many episodes I had, but I was a brother to Sean. No, I was called Sean, and I was a brother to
Get
one of the
out.
kids.
Did you have
And
speaking roles? Did you have to
I don't
say
know, I was quite literally like
just
standing up and walking. That was about it, sort of thing like that.
back a frame? That's amazing.
But yeah, it was quite funny to watch back because their mum's still got
Oh
videos
yeah.
somewhere of it, and I think one of the main episodes was that the brother, who was only probably, I don't know, 7 or 8, the mum, single mum, had to go to work, and then Sean had to look after me, and he kept feeding me Panadol or something like that to I wasn't going to bed, and then it was just this fake scene of me like being passed out, and the ambulance had to come, and it was just hilarious. So
That is fantastic. We need. There's going to be a list of actions after this podcast. We are going to need the video that Mez made. We're going to need some country practice. Yeah, we're going to have to dig up some links after this because this is just this
in the
is
list to start writing things
mate. This is
down, or am I
pure
getting
gold.
distracted?
Oh, absolutely, mate. You've been dropping bangers since a country practice. I mean, this is going to be like a pendulum remix of the ABC theme. I just can't wait to see it.
Don't get me started on Pendulum. That is, I miss him. I need to see him again.
Fair, fair. Now,
Yeah.
we were back at Baby Scott. So, Baby
Yep.
Scott, Northern Beaches, born there,
Yep.
around there. So, that has always been home.
Yep. Always been home. Yeah. It was North Avalon. I went to Avalon Public High School and then Barrenjoey High School. So it was pretty much just a walk down the road to go to school.
Was
No
it
religious factors
uphill
in that.
both ways? Was it uphill both ways in the snow back
No,
then? No?
it was nice and flat. Everywhere's cruisy as. But yeah, it took a big interest into boats, like your small little outboard boats and stuff like that. When I was about 13, I started doing like little weekends working at Barrenjoey Boat Hire up at Palm Beach. And I was pretty much just helping like clean the boats, get the boats ready, the hire boats ready. And kept enjoying, being out in the sun, all the, boats and stuff like that, which continued on to school certificate, where I went and did, I guess, my deckhand certificate for working on larger boats at TAFE. What came next? I pretty much came, straight out of school. Did not want to stay in school. I'll have to do like a bit of a jump around because I want to.
Please. This is your show, Scott. This is your
My
life.
show. I want to talk about
Yeah.
ADHD.
Oh, please.
All that sort of stuff as well. Yeah. I had quite a big thing at that. But I'll have to be like almost present Scott and then go back to
Wonderful.
struggling
All right.
at school Scott.
You fast forward to wherever you need to be.
Forward all around. So, but anyways, I did not want to be at school because I did not like school. So as soon as I, got my pass for school certificate, went and worked on a mooring barge, which in Pittwater. So pretty much lifting out the moorings that all of the boats would be living on, cleaning them, repairing them, doing a bit of, all that sort of repair work. Did quite a few years on that, getting my sea time up. Went back to TAFE, and then I got my coxswain's certificate, was, so you could drive commercial boats up to
Coxswain grade 3?
10 meter. I should remember this, but this is quite a time ago. And then kept, working on water taxis, different boats, Palm Beach ferries to get more sea time up, to then go back to TAFE again to get my Masters 5 for driving up to 25 meters. Yeah, and then MED3 for engineering. So yeah, so I actually spent quite a lot of years on the water, getting all of my tickets to drive boats and be a part of all of that scene. Um, and the big dropout from working on the water, I was skippering for a diving company, so a diving boat, and we had taken the boat, this cat, out to just outside Palm Beach, pretty much outside the heads. So, a bit of open ocean stuff. All the divers and the owner of the boat went overboard. They, did the dive on a wreck, came back up, and the owner of the boat was, all right, we've got to hurry. We've got to get these guys back to Pittwater so we can get the next group of guys out. So I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. I start driving, and he's like, all right, well, let me drive. I can go faster. Which is where I probably should have put my foot down, being the skipper. But he was the owner of the boat. He had owned the boat for years, so he started racing back, racing back to Pittwater, and we came across some slightly shallower grounds where the swell started to pick up a bit, and we went down a bit of swell, got to the bottom, and he tried to outrun it. And then the next wave came up behind, bit of swell, pushed the boat. Then he went back down into the trough. And then the third one, it was a bigger bit of swell, pushed the boat, got to the trough, and then rolled the boat over. So there's like 8 of us on board. I was at the back where the outboards were, off over the back of it. Somehow all of us had no injuries, but boat was upside down, and we were all kind of like floating, holding onto the boat. And at that time of the day, on the weekend, we thought we'd probably see plenty of people, quite a busy area. And about half an hour passed by, and no boats had come, and we're like, we've got to pull the EPIRB. And knowing that you pull the EPIRB, that sends out your SOS to just about everyone. So we, made the decision to do it. Then we had helicopters, had the news helicopter floating above us, police boat out, and they came, picked us all up, and all that sort of stuff like that. So it was a bit of a journey. And once we got back to shore later on, I had to go have a meeting with the maritime, and got a bit of a grilling. You were the skipper, you should have been driving, all that sort of stuff. So copped quite a big fine for that. But yeah, after that, I, realized that whilst working the water was great, there's particular conditions in people's lives that, that you're meant to be looking after. And anything can happen. And, when you're responsible, it's quite a stressful thing to have to think about. So I dropped the whole marine sort of side of things. And then I don't know, I juggled quite a few different jobs throughout all of that, doing little part-time bits here and there. And that was probably about that time when I wanted to start filming with the Hit and Run guys.
Wow. That is a story that I was completely unaware of. And that's quite traumatizing too, and particularly the fact that you got ripped for it and fined for it. Do you remember how much? I'm sure it was significant.
I think it was around that four mark, sort of thing like that, 3.5 or something like that. The owner also got a fine, but I think his boat insurance would have been voided, so he would have been at a much bigger loss. And I had family and friends say that he's at fault. You should get money back from him, but I guess I was too much of a nice guy that I didn't want to chase him up for money because he lost his boat. He got a fine. I guess it's just as much my fault that I probably should have taken lead and said, no, sorry, you're paying me to be the skipper. I'm going to drive it how I should.
But how old were you at that time? That's a hard thing to have to do, to tell, I assume, somebody older, and you would have been 20s, I guess.
The owner of the boat. Exactly.
Basically, to tell the person that employs you and pay your bills no is a difficult position to be put in.
Yeah, definitely. I cannot 100% tell you exactly when or how old I was, as my brain struggles to remember back the dates and stuff like that. But yeah, I was young, 21,
Hmm.
sort of around that sort of mark. I could be a few years
Yeah, but
hit
even
or
a few
miss on that.
years either side of that, you're still a young man. You're not a
Yeah,
seasoned worldly fella at how things end up going,
yeah,
and that's a pretty harsh shock to receive at that
yeah,
age.
yeah. And I wanted to progress. Get the bigger tickets to work on bigger boats. Obviously more money and stuff. Um, but the bigger boats started getting slower, and the much bigger boats, if you're going to be working on tenders, oil rig, all that sort of stuff, you'd be out of home, away from the area, and all that sort of stuff. And I liked the smaller, more maneuverable or the faster boats. So yeah, I made that decision to finish up for marine.
Far out. It's a hell of a
Mm.
story, Scotty.
Yeah. I'll have to find. I know it's on Facebook somewhere, but I did record on my phone when it was on the news. Like I think it was Channel 9 News, but I filmed like the helicopter perspective, looking down at us on the police boat, and there's me waving or something like that, something stupid. But
Naturally,
um, yeah, but but it was quite a memory that wasn't super fun.
mate. That's severe, because I was, and you jumped forward there, and it was. This is your story, mate. But I like to sort of. I'll take you back a little bit more, because you said to me that young Scott wasn't particularly interested in school, wasn't interested in the framework. This is an oddly similar conversation I have noticed with creative folk. Um, were there any parts of it that you enjoyed? Were there any parts of the study that or schooling that you did
Um,
actually have fond memories of?
Honestly, no. I think hanging out with mates was probably the only real highlight. I there was photography. I did do photography, but it was film and processing, and I guess I probably didn't fully understand it, and I didn't enjoy it. I don't think I enjoyed it back then, using film cameras, because I think back then when my brain wanted things now and then, I took the photo, I don't see the photo, and then you got to go get it processed, and you get it back and it's black, or it's out of focus, all that sort of stuff like that. I just yeah, it wasn't much of an interest for it there, which is funny.
Well, there's no
But
gratification in that process, is there? It's just slow and painful.
yeah, yeah, exactly right. And expensive, because well, expect not as expensive now to process film and stuff, but it was an additional cost just to see your photos back.
Yeah, it took a lot of the fun out of it. Well, that's
Hmm.
interesting. But you said there was a lot of gaming, so not
Yeah.
so much sports. So you said your old boy was keen for you to do a bit of surfing, that sort of stuff, or
Yep. Yep.
little nippers. That's always the thing that beach kids do, isn't it? You didn't spend
Yeah.
your
Well,
weekends
he never got me to do nippers, nothing like that. I legit hid out in my dungeon of a room, much like now, I guess. The dungeons have just gotten a little bit bigger and a bit brighter.
with better lighting.
Um, yeah, but I used to play a lot of video games, a lot of computer games here and there.
Which ones?
Um, World of Warcraft. I think
Ooh,
I spent, I don't know how many thousands of hours worth, weekends, all that sort of stuff. And back then, the servers for World of Warcraft were only American. So your time differences when you're playing with other people, I'd wake up at 4 a.m. for their peak time to be playing, and I'd play then all day, Saturday, all day Sunday, and then just rinse and repeat every single weekend. And I did not get out at all from all of that. So I missed out on a bit, but I mean, there's a lot of fun memories from gaming, I guess.
And friends
Yeah.
from that era as well, because I had
Y-
mates that were hard
Yeah.
into it as well, and like there were years where that was a central part of their lives.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, good couple of mates that lifelong mates that I'm still mates with now, and one of them's moved down to Melbourne, and one's in the city. But yeah, Pete, and Bowie. But Pete, his parents were, you know, more well off than we were, so they had the Nintendo 64, they had the PC that could run the games, and they had Foxtel. So it was,
That was the measure of wealth, mate. If you had Foxtel, you're like, whoa, these guys are killing
yeah,
it.
yeah. So there'd be plenty of weekends that would go up. You'd have all the toys to do that sort of stuff like that.
I'll bet they had a fridge in the garage.
Multiple fridges. They had
Oh,
the wine fridge and all that sort of stuff
oh,
like that.
oh,
Oh, and the snacks, the endless snacks.
oh,
They
the
always had
endless
always had
snacks.
lots of
How good is the rich friend's house?
snacks. Yeah, so it would definitely, do some absolute all-nighters, pure gaming, just with those boys.
Was that,
Um,
were you playing on PC then, or was that console, or what were you actually playing on?
yeah, so that was PC back then. Yeah.
Are
Um,
you old enough that you'd have to LAN party and like take a whole computer to people's places and
we
network
did
them
do
together?
little bits here and there. I think back then, we had like the family PC at my house,
Yes,
so
the
it
one
wasn't
in the one in the
wasn't
living
wasn't
room.
taking it. Yep, wasn't taking that up there. But I think we did go to a few internet cafes to play Counter Strike and Battlefield 1942. So we did a fair bit of that.
That's still good now. You know that holds up. Have you played that recently? There's still
Uh,
servers pumping.
20. Oh, not 1940.
Mate,
Oh, really? No, no, I didn't know about that
yeah,
one.
some of the old Battlefield ones, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. No, I've played the newer 2042, which is a bit of fun, but yeah, nothing like being in
Mate,
the LAN.
go and have a look at some of the old ones. Yeah, jump on
Yeah.
Steam where they've put them in there.
Yeah, okay.
And there's actually, yeah, some of those older games still have strong cohorts of people
Yeah,
who
okay.
remember excellent times.
Absolute diehards. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Command and Conquer, were you ever rocking that bad boy?
Yes.
Geez, I burned some time on that one. Ooh,
Red Alert
Red
1, 2,
Alert.
and
Oh,
3.
and the
And
music.
there
The music
was
was just pumping in that. I don't know
yeah, it
if you
was
remember that.
the soldiers, the soldiers marching. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I can remember that one.
Yeah.
Tiberian Sun. That was a
Tiberian Sun.
that was like
Yes.
another expansion of Command and Conquer. Yeah, yeah. Pete had that. Mackie had that.
Somebody put
Um,
me onto. There's a version of that now online that you can, that someone has set up so that you can play multiplayer like in browser.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I did get onto that a couple of years back
Yeah, right. Oh,
just for
I tried
laughs.
because it's up on all of the Command and Conquers are up on Steam, and then you look at them, and then like like $4, but then you look at the
Yeah.
graphics, you just like,
Oh, it's a stretch.
was it that good back then? I was
Yeah,
like,
well, we had, was it your 486 computer and, you know, 360 pixels of res. Lemmings was the one that actually I also melted into and played a lot of that.
yep.
And then tried it again more recently. I was like, wow, this is so basic.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I used to play.
shitness really shines through in some of the gameplay
Yep.
with what we become used to as normal.
Yeah. Well, thinking speaking of lemmings, like I guess to go even further back, was probably actually my downfall. My parents had bought a Sega Mega Drive, which had lemmings on it. Alex the Kid. Do
Oh,
you ever remember playing that
mate,
one?
Alex Kidd in Miracle World.
Yeah, that was rock paper
Yeah,
scissors,
mate,
whatever
that
the
was a great
yeah.
game. Still is actually.
I
That
think
did hold up.
that held up really well. And, I think it was like an old James Bond game as well. But yeah, I guess that started everything. So I thought it was like a good little toy to have, but then it just ripped me into just mindlessly focusing on a screen.
It's all right.
Yeah,
You would see it now. How drawn our kids are to, like, it is astonishing.
yeah, and there's so much more research into how to keep kids engaged on loud noises and colors and weird shit. Where
Whereas
I,
we were
yeah,
the test dummies, mate. Nobody knew what was
yep,
going to happen. From playing Space Invaders was I'm an Atari 2600. That was when my gaming life started. I'm Space Invaders years old, and playing that on the Atari as a young bloke with the joystick and the one button and the
yep,
and berserk and stuff, and then just
yep,
keep going. And now, one of my more recent purchases is Power Washing Simulator. I'm not sure if you've got onto that, but mate,
I've
on
seen like,
Steam, whew, and
yeah,
particularly with the Neurospice, mate, Power Washing Simulator and then Lawn Mowing
yep,
Simulator.
yes. I've
Mm,
been, we've just moved into a new place, and the whole driveway, you know, needed a bit of cleaning up, and I've been gurning. Like I think I gurneyed for a day and a half straight,
did
and
you
my
put a
brain,
GoPro on it? Yeah, it's
I was just
amazing.
like hyper fixated, and it's rewarding, but like I just realized I've been gurning for a day and a half straight. Something wrong with me. But yeah,
Yeah,
power washing on on a
yeah.
computer. I
And
could see where
and
they.
setting up, if you've got a driving sim, if you've got any sort of steering apparatus, to then
Yep.
be driving the lawn mowing simulator
Oh
on
no.
your driving
Yep.
sim, I'm like,
Yep. Yep.
taking this drift sim to strange new places.
Yeah. All the trucking simulators where people are actually driving
Oh yeah,
trucks
driving
in
the big
traffic.
rigs.
They
Yeah,
love it. They absolutely love it.
But the sim I just got a cheap second-hand one, and that was the bloke I got it from. That was what he was doing with it, was trucks. Just
Yep.
loved it, like loved it. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
fantastic. There was this whole world I didn't know existed. So
Yeah. It's not racing and
no,
doing some wild things. It's legit just driving
just
a
driving.
truck or a farming simulator, just doing that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I
But
love it.
these are the great things in life, mate. Is
Mm.
that you can go and do all these dumb things from the comfort and air conditioning of home,
Yep.
and yeah,
And you crash it. Oop, that's all right. Reset button.
yeah, that's all right. Actually, oh god, I did one of the VR motorsport, the big sims, that have the big hydraulic arms and stuff.
Oh yeah, the proper. Yeah, yeah. That's
Oh
one up in
mate,
Brisbane. That's meant to be good.
yeah, it's unreal. Except I discovered I get violently motion sick, and I was trying to learn
Yeah.
to drift on it, and when you hit the wall, like you fucking hit the wall, like the whole thing impacts, and you're there going,
Feel everything. Yeah.
like, boo, and then I was getting like really, because you were having to, it was 300 horsepower missile, and you're having to clutch kick it to make it hang out, and then I was
Yeah.
just terrified of getting it wrong. Because I'd had like 17 crashes and they actually hurt. They're going,
Yeah.
ugh. So
Yeah.
actual risk versus reward. And I'm like, yeah, well, I quite like my $200 Povo one at home, where when I
Yeah.
crash out, the steering wheel just goes a bit funny.
It does a couple of
Yeah,
spins
and
and
I'm
stuff.
like,
I'm like, yeah,
how
that's
mildly
easy.
inconvenient.
Yeah. Rather than getting shaken up like
Oh,
a paint tin.
oh,
Yeah.
so cool. We actually did some laps of Bathurst after that, though. And
Yeah.
that I'm a little bit more familiar with. I'm probably better at straight line simming than
And
drift
the grip
simming.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I could throw down on that a bit harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, much more scary when it's actually chucking you around. But look, this is what happens: is we fall off track, and then what we do is we go
Just
back
keep
to the
going back to it.
arc of Scotty's life. Now,
Yes.
you said you were also keen to jump in on your the lens through which you see the world. Was that something that you picked up on at school, like the ADHD stuff, or was that still a time where that was not as well recognised?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, was not recognized at all. If I'll jump around a little bit here, but I'm 35 years old now, but it was only 31 where I was. This is going to be like a long story, but I'll try and compress it into something that's not just a mess. Um, yeah, I think about 30, 31. Um, had my business, had Big Bear Films, my wedding business, and Scott Mitchell Media together. Um, and I was waking up tired, caffeine, caffeine, caffeine. Need to have a nap on the couch because I was quite literally like falling asleep. Have a nap, get up, caffeine, get to the night, caffeine, and then I was, still getting like 6 or 7 hours sleep, but then waking up, and I had like a few years of just absolute mess where it just got worse and worse. So I thought, finally, let's go see a doctor. I'm not sleeping properly. Went to a specialist, and they basically worked out that I had sleep apnea, and quite a severe case of it, where anytime I'd fall asleep, and I get into an REM, my jaw would relax and then drop and close my airway and cut off my oxygen. So I had a sleep test done, and in that sleep test, there was like 18 times where you'd see me get into an REM, relax, and my oxygen levels would drop down to dangerous, wake myself back up, not wake myself up, but wake myself out of REM, plateau for a little bit, then go back into REM, suffocate. And then it was just like this up and down the whole way through. And they said, yeah, you're basically, suffocating yourself. So we need to do something about that. As for, struggling to sleep and all that sort of stuff, we'll do a bit of a brain scan and, do a few tests just to see it all out. And basically, long-term and short-term memory, I was really struggling with. It was hard to concentrate on my work, to edit and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, they, had like advanced ADHD for like attention and all that sort of stuff like that. And the whole lack of sleep added onto the ADHD, where it like made it a lot, 10 times worse. So there was a lot of realization, coming to getting, finally getting diagnosed. And it was something that I really wish I had got diagnosed way back in the day, but it wasn't a thing back then. The doctor said, "Oh, we need to get, school reports from your parents. Can you get your parents to kind of like send through the years worth from primary and high school? We just need to make sure if this is like a long-term thing or if it's a recent thing." And, mum's delivered all these reports and like, great student, blah, 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 blah. He, wished that he would apply himself, focus, and not be in a distraction to the class. And I was like, oh, yeah, here's a good example. All right, next teacher, same thing, distraction. Wish he would apply himself. Next one. And every single year, every single paper was the same comment of like being a distraction, not applying himself. And it was like, actually, in the car drive home with my wife, Georgie, I actually broke down into tears thinking about like 30 years or, whatever from a kid, but like how long of my life that I haven't been able to properly focus and get things done due to, ADHD. And yeah, it was like, it really hit me hard to read all those reports and like understand it, like, oh shit. So, went down the slippery slope of, okay, we'll start you on Ritalin to try and test that out. But we need to get on top of the sleeping factor. So there was a lot of options of either a sleep app machine, which, a machine pumping next to you whilst you're trying to sleep. That was, I did not want to do that. There was surgery, but, for a jaw relaxing, like that would be some intense surgery to go through. It wasn't a nasal thing where I could just open the nose up sort of thing. And then he said, well, we've got something new from the States. You'll have to go see this sleep dentist, where they actually 3D scan your jawline, and then they send it over the States. And the States, they make a mold that you pretty much wear every single night. And, you put your upper in, and it's got these little tabs that when you lock into your jaw, it pushes your jaw forward, but leaves it there. So when you fall asleep, your jaw doesn't actually drop back at all. And the very first night of like using it, Georgie's like, you didn't snore once. It was not a peep from you. I was like, holy shit. Kept on using it, and that itself, like being able to actually sleep and wake up feeling a little bit rested. Because yeah, the doctor said, for how long that you've been snoring, you've been suffocating. So technically, you've been almost jet lagged for about 18 years. And I was like, fuck, everything is like making a lot of sense. Like, I should have gone to the doctor so long ago for these sort of things. I was just like, nah, nothing's wrong. There's no point going to the doctor. It's going to cost money. But, things I should have done later on.
But you also don't
yes,
know because you
yeah, you
what's your
don't know.
reference point? You
Yeah.
only know your existence, and you don't
Mm.
know what's normal and what's not normal. Is
Yeah.
one of the challenges that I note comes up with people that you sort of go, well, isn't this normal? Like I'm old and tired because I
Yeah,
do a lot
exactly.
and I'm exhausted.
Yeah. And then, your parents back then, there was no research into ADHD and stuff. So your parents would just be like, why aren't you focusing? Why aren't you doing your homework? And, you know, I feel, bad for them, whether if they're like, oh shit, we should have done something back then to help him. But it was just nothing about that back then. So there was nothing they could do really. But I don't know, maybe I am the weird, wonderful guy that I am because of ADHD in a way. Like it's hyper fixating on particular things and pushing myself, and I don't know. It's I had the conversation with Georgie a few times. Like, could I imagine myself, getting diagnosed back when I was a kid, being on Ritalin, and then plateauing myself, so I've never would have been at this point. How different I would have been. Like, I don't know whether if it's yes, it has its downfalls and stuff, but whether if the creativity and enthusiasm to what I enjoy, whether if that, you know, pushing pushing myself because of that. So, don't know.
I think that is one of the most interesting parts about that journey is the reflection on what might have been, that emotion, like that heavy emotion that you spoke of, where you were going home and going, "Oh my God, what would it have been like?" I've gone through that same sort of grief, where
Yeah,
I was diagnosed. How old am I? What year is it? I was 43 when I was diagnosed, so like I'm
yeah,
just medicated as of this year. Yeah, mate. And that's the thing, like I'm closer to 50 than I am to how old you are,
yeah,
is certainly how I feel. And you go, I can't believe that I've ever managed to do anything, given how hard it is for me to do anything. Because I don't know about you, but I've discovered executive dysfunction, rejection sensitive dysmorphia. I have eating issues. I have and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And I'm like, I was like just raw dogging life, no
yeah,
meds, caffeine, booze, like just that. Those were my uppers and downers to try and keep it together. And then it was just
yeah,
full noise. And I look at how much I had to fucking flog myself to do anything, because I too, and as I've had these conversations with many people, the if only they'd applied themselves comment
yes. Oh
from
man,
educators seems to be the common link of, because you didn't fit in the box. They're like, do it this way. This is the only way that matters. And you're like, no, fuck that. What about this? And you're like told no. And I think that that's very hard, particularly for when we understand what a neurodivergent kid is now. And you look like you're having some sound issues. Are you holding on there?
made a mistake where I've pushed my ears in
And it's made it do
and
the thing?
to do something, and it
Yeah,
has muted you for a second. There, go again. Sorry,
that's all
I'm
right.
sorry about that.
No, look, I
No,
guess,
okay, I've lost you.
yeah,
Hold up.
no, that's all right.
Sorry, Scotty.
When you find it, but that sadness of what might have been, I think, is a very real
No,
and something that I've
hold up.
heard from a lot of people. You see if
There we
you
go.
can figure out what you've done there.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'm back. Okay. I'm sorry about that one.
No,
I
mate, don't.
pushed my ear in for a second and it just
Yeah,
brought Siri up and it was trying to tell me, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to
I would
be
like
listening
you
to Scott.
to be quiet, Siri.
Yeah, exactly
Um,
right. Okay.
but
Sorry.
how have you found that focus sort of moving forward? Have you found your way onto medication that helps, and does it make a marked difference for you?
Yeah. So, yeah, going back to, yeah, first getting diagnosed and medicated, I was on Ritalin. That I think it was about 20 milligrams, but it was four a day. And initially it wasn't too bad, like the first one, and it hit quite hard, give you a spike for an hour and a half or whatever, and then come back down, and then you got to obviously have the next one, then you got to have this one, and you know, being already struggling to focus, like I tend to forget to have the next one, and then like you're having to take four a day. I was just like, it's adding on to my list of things that I've already trying to focus on. So I think I did about 6 months of that, and a mate of mine had moved, who was on it as well. He had moved over to Vyvanse, so that was relatively new-ish back then, which was one dose for the day, and that was it. So I was like, okay. Went to the doctor and said I may have tested one of my mates' Vyvanses, and it was amazing. It was fantastic. It wasn't like this initial aggressive you know, focus of high heart rate and all this sort of stuff. And it lasted for the full day. And he's like, "Oh, were you able to sleep?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I put my head on the pillow, close my eyes, and I'm out like a log. And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, fair enough. Well, all right, we'll try you on Vyvanse." And yeah, Vyvanse has been amazing. Has been like it is day or night. You can tell me as a person when I'm not on Vyvanse, because there's this having conversations elsewhere, and like I don't like the idea that long term that I have to have drugs every day to do what I do to function. But these past few years have been the best progress for myself, the businesses. So it's hard to not want to stay medicated. But yeah, I'll have to see, you know, longer down the track of what I could do to try and help. But drugs are currently the best thing right now. So yeah.
That's a hard
But
one, isn't
what do
it?
you?
Yeah, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm the
Do
same
you
as you.
Ritalin or?
So Dex worked better for me. And once again, I had the very similar experience where the Dex comes on in about 12 minutes and I go from like non functional zombie to, fully functioning like we had to do. And, you put your mask on and you're all singing and all dancing and you've got it all
Yeah.
together. Just all of a sudden, I can do baseline activities. Yeah, I've got the one where, like, I can't remember to have a shower. Like, I can't remember if I've brushed my teeth. I can't remember why I walked from one part of the house to the next, like, because there's so much going on.
Mm.
And so to be able to just do things that people can do normally in a day to manage their own existence, and then to also be able to do the complex tasks. So I have one Vyvanse, I'm up to 60 milligrams a day of Vyvanse, and then I can supplement that with two 5 milligram dexamphetamines in the afternoon, because what I find is I get about 4 hours out of the Vyvanse,
Yep.
and it takes about an hour to come on. And basically, I go from like potato, just bleh, to and I'm on, and like I can just like all of us. It's like all of a sudden after 45 minutes to an hour, it's like I'm a fully functioning adult, and
Yeah. It's a bit of
I can
clarity, and you
adult,
just
and then
yeah.
I feel it winding off in the afternoon, and that was the journey that I've been through. I'm like I can't make a full day, which is okay some days, but like if I have late meetings or something to go to or something, like I've got nothing in the tank and I actually need the top up to be able to continue to function as a normal person would.
Yeah. I think I'm going through similar processes of that where, yes, I do quite a few late nights still editing because I seem to find that's probably the best time for me where there's less distractions, less time to go out and play with the car and stuff like that when the sun's up. So, I would be crawling into bed at that, 1, 2 a.m. sort of factor. But yeah, I find, probably around that afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock where, it does sort of dwindle off and I almost need to, have a coffee, but more sleep is always a good thing.
More sleep is, but when you're parenting, and this is the problem, is from 4 p.m. until it's time for you to go to bed. You got kids' dinners, showers, bath time, like whatever it is. Like that's like another day's work, and you do a day's work before work and after work every day, 7 days a week. Just in your family life management is the thing I find. That was the part that I found really hard, was being functional for my work, but then like having the massive physical emotional collapse after all the things wore off, and you've still got to be useful to your family, because otherwise the question becomes, how come you can be so functional for everybody else, but here, you can't remember to put one foot in front of the other.
The single parenting comment is what pops up every now and then. I'm like, oh shit, sorry, yep.
Sorry, and it's not that you don't mean to.
Oh no, 100%.
It's the literalness. I don't know if you've got this, but unless it's something that's been explained to me, unless something is in front of you, it doesn't exist for us. And it's why I have to leave physical things out to remind me of what I'm doing, and lots of lists, because the minute I'm not seeing it, it no longer exists on this planet. It's not there.
Yeah.
And it's no disrespect. It's just that we don't, like, it just all goes away.
Yeah. And, people on the outside, it's hard to explain to them what goes through your head and like, oh shit, I forgot about this or didn't do this. It's like, it's so hard to explain to people like that.
It's
like,
terrible.
It's something so simple that you've just spoken about.
But it's the frame of reference, and people who understand it and have the lived experience of how bizarre it is have a level of sympathy to it, because they too understand. And it's something that I talk about with my therapist all the time, is ensuring that I can find the language to explain the experiences to other people in a way that they understand. Because that's the hardest part that I find, is because we don't have a broken arm or move around in a wheelchair, people don't look at you and go, oh, you're disabled. And it's like, well, I am. I'm actually horrendously disabled. It's just invisible. And, I'm not disabled enough to get a sweet car park, but I'm disabled enough that it does great damage to my day-to-day existence and my responsibilities as an adult. And it's the degree to which it impacts your life is the measurement. And I know that and I know that the impact is fucking severe.
Big time. Absolutely big time. Yeah. And people are just like, it's all in your head, mate.
It's all in your head. Like, no fucking shit.
Just get it done. Just do the job. Just do it. You're like, I really fucking want to do this job. Like, it's,
and there's a block that happens that you cannot explain, and it's like every fucking neuron in your body, like when you try and squeeze two magnets together and you try and make the two magnets stick, and it's like your fucking magnets just stick and they are forcing each other apart. It is the repellent against that thing that you don't wish to do, as compared to how you can hyperfocus on high pressure hosing for 3 days.
Yep.
And interestingly, I don't know if you had this same experience. I discovered that the reason that I became so drawn to photography was that it would get you into a flow state, which was effectively tapping our hyperfocus ability, because you had to think of so many things simultaneously that it would take up all of your brain function, remove any rumination or anything else, and it would bring you into the present moment. And that was a realization that I had of why I enjoyed the motorsport and the photography so much because you could also work independently.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I definitely can agree to that where there's a lot of like comparing to say editing after the event in a dark room, that's probably my biggest downfall where I can obviously get it done. It just takes me a lot longer because it's hard just getting distracted. But at an event or at a wedding or something like that, where, yeah, as you said, there's so many things going on, you just hyperfixate and like you're almost in your element in a way. And you love it as well because you just
And the
pushing
energy
with
is
all
high.
that happening.
Like you don't have to put it on. You're just
Yeah.
carried with, this
Yeah.
absolute pumping time.
Yeah. 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 You'd be at parties and stuff and like, oh, what are you on? What are you doing? I'm like, nothing, mate. I'm high on life.
I'm just high on life. You go. You should
Yeah,
you should see the
exactly.
come down. Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
it's a hell
we're
of a story though, mate, because you've gone. But this is the crazy thing, Scotty, and this is the thing from all this podcasting that I've done. Are you familiar with Neurokin? Are you across that one? Where us neuros
are you
can tell.
your internet connection
Oh no,
stable. Go again. No, go.
is that mine? It says I've got full bars. This is what I don't like
Um
about these internety ones. It says I'm
I think it's
pumping.
got back to
Yeah, we're back.
yeah, go again. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's all right.
better. Start cutting out.
So bizarre. I've got Mr. Musk looking after my internet here. I had to rip the NBN out of the wall because the fucking copper wires that it's attached to are so shit that I couldn't hold a stable internet
Oh,
connection. And when you work in production and media as we do, you need a bit of that.
you're on the Starlink, mate.
Yeah, mate. I had to. I could not get uploads and downloads. Like both of them were terrible. I also recently
Yeah.
discovered. I don't know if this is correct, but apparently our uploads in Australia are so bad because we were such major pirates in the early days of the internet. LimeWire and all the things. Because we didn't get anything down here, we all became,
Yeah.
seafaring pirates. And
Yep.
part of the government strategy to combat that was the slow upload speeds, which carries forward to
Which is it.
today. Because in 2010, they had, you were getting gigabit speeds in 2010 in Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
and we were still running, dial up type.
Exactly. Yeah. Legit dial-up sort of speeds. Yeah.
Yeah. Mate,
Pirates.
tell me a time. So you've just had you've had a boat barrel roll on you. You've been rolled over the coals, and you've gone, "What is my life?" Wouldn't have been a great time. Talk me through that
Yeah.
time, and where that went.
Yeah. So after the boating accident, realizing obviously the dangers and risk versus reward sort of thing, I wanted to try something different. It was around that same sort of period where, filming stuff with the Hit and Run boys, where I was getting to do a bit of travel and making videos that people liked watching, and then all of the feedback from those videos, people like, I want to see more of this. Let's do this sort of thing like that. And obviously, as you know, there's really not a lot of money in drifting. So I started to look at like different sort of avenues of filming or photography of what I could do. And, there's, obviously a bit of cash flow from club photography at Mona. So I started looking at like small business, doing little bits here and there, which wasn't too bad, but it wasn't enough to keep me sort of going. And my older sister, Katie, who's down in Melbourne now, um, her wedding was popping up, and she's like, "Oh, you know, I can't remember if she actually asked me, can you film it?" I was like, "Oh, I'll film it. I'll film the wedding for you," young me, never really attending weddings or have shot a wedding before. I was like, oh, I could test it out at my older sister's wedding. And looking back at the video now, it is horrendous, like pixelated, all this sort of like terrible. I do not understand like what I was doing anyways, but Katie still reckons it's the best wedding video I've ever done. But I loved it. I loved, I'm a big softie at heart, and to see everyone in such a happy, also emotional sort of state, I thrived on it. I loved it. And, you had the pressure of don't miss this shot, everything's happening and you can't retake it. And I thrived on it. And, talking about like when you're in your element, your energy's high and I always had lots of feedback from anyone on the day of like, oh, that videographer, he was so much fun. He was, really good energy, and he was just on a high the whole day. And I pretty much just lived through it. So I did a bit of brainstorming with, my family, an extended family, do like a annual Blue Mountains trip. And that year back, way back, whatever year it was, I was just like, I'm going to make a wedding videography business, but I need to come up with a name. I can't think of anything. You want to have something catchy. You don't want to have, SM weddings or something like that. And start thinking about, if the logo also will have to reflect it as well. And I was just like, I'm a big boy. I'm a bit of a hairy boy, and what about Big Bear Films? And everyone's like, oh, that sounds really good, all this sort of stuff. And the logo was going to be really easy to do, all this sort of stuff. Did all the searching. There was no one had taken the name for it, all this sort of stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go with this. And I purchased the name and all that sort of stuff. And then my mum was like, just be careful, because when people are searching for big bears online, it can also mean gay big bears. And I was like, thanks, Mum. Thank you. But yeah, God bless her. But yeah, I started, filming that. So I had a really good mate of mine, Callum Robison Photography. I used to come and shoot. He'd recommend me for video, and we'd get along on like House of Fire, and it would just steamroll word of mouth on from there. And I started shooting heaps and heaps of weddings. And, I was getting up to the point where I was good 45 weddings a year. And I was loving it. But, come time for the editing side of things, it would take me a bit of time to edit the wedding video. And, the couple, they won't notice that it's in 4K. They won't care if there's like a little bump or something like that. And my work is not perfect, but I would spend hours just going through clips, watching it 10 times over and going, oh, there's a little bump. I'm going to have to like snip that little section out and then change it to this. And, the couple would never notice, nothing on it. But I would spend so much time editing these wedding videos, it'd take me a bit of time to get it back to them. But, going back to that, like I never had to like advertise other than a couple of like Facebook posts, but everything was word of mouth. People would watch the videos. I don't know this couple, but I cried the whole way through the video. We want you, sort of stuff like that. And, Georgie would say like, maybe that, because you spent so much time on these videos that it just worked like that. People saw it and wanted to have these videos. But yeah, I spent 7 years shooting weddings for Big Bear Films. And, cutting to, I guess, COVID, that was a fun time where, we weren't an essential worker. We weren't essential at all. So all weddings, feeling sorry for the couples that, they also couldn't have their wedding day. All the weddings got cancelled, no income coming in. So it was a fucking stressful period. You still had all your outgoings, your rent and all that sort of shit. You still had to somehow make money, ends meet. So pretty much just tapped into the savings and drained all of that out until you could finally prove to the government that you were, you didn't need to find work because you had a job, but you weren't allowed to work because you weren't essential. Um, and so dealing with all the couples that I had booked for these weddings. I was very lucky, as soon as it happened, I got a post out, emailed all the couples and said, this is a shit time for everyone. When weddings open back up, let's find a date with all the other vendors. We'll work out a date. We'll make it happen. And it was great, bar two couples. One couple didn't want to have the wedding at all. They wanted to cancel the whole thing. And I think it was like 4 or 5 months out from the wedding date. And they're like, we want the whole deposit back. And I was like, that's the whole point of the deposit. Like, technically I wasn't going to book another couple because of this, because of the date. And no, we want it all back. We're going to take you to tribunal, fair trading, all this sort of shit like this. And it kept escalating to where I was just like, I don't have the savings or money to give back for this deposit. Like legit has been food or rent completely eaten away. To go get a loan out to pay someone else's deposit back as a sole trader, the bank would have said, no, there's no point on that. So I think, after COVID and, that sort of couple, I was just like, that's, it's a bit tough to sort of deal with that sort of stuff. And then, throwing in the 45 out of the 52 weekends that I would be shooting a wedding with, a good quarter of them potentially interstate or within, far enough away where you had to stay the night somewhere. I've got a 6-year-old next month, 6 years old of next month, Grace. So, I started missing out on quite a lot of weekends where Georgie would be working during the week, come to the weekend. All right, see you later, family. I'm going off to film and, shoot weddings and stuff. And I started, missing out on a fair bit. And, it was quite taxing on the family not being present for it all. So that was probably the nail in the coffin to wrap up weddings. I wanted to get back to midweek work so I could, spend time with the family and, not have to go through that whole sort of, stress of COVID and not being an essential worker again. But yeah, as of, I guess, last year, pretty much finishing up the rest of the weddings and finishing all that up, and now pushed on to completely full time with one business, Scott Mitchell Media. So it's been nice to only have one website, one email address, one account to do tax with and stuff, rather than an already chaotic brain to worry about emails from every different location, and need a little bit of a breather.
It's all right. Well, but it is. It's a lot.
It's a lot to...
Like self-employment, we just like to hurt ourselves. That seems to also be part of this neuro curse.
Yeah. We just... Well, actually, yeah, that's speaking of the curse of not knowing what's around the corner in terms of cash flow and income, like you will be like more inclined to try and fit as much on your plate as possible. So let's say you plan out a week and like, okay, shoot day Tuesday, edit Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and have that wrapped up. I reckon I could fit another job in here on the Thursday. Oh, actually, this small job, that sounds like fun. I really want to do that. If I don't take that job, they're going to find someone else. So I'll take that job on Wednesday. And yeah, you tend to completely fill your week out. Because next week you might not have any work for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So you kind of take on what you can And yeah, unless you've got yourself a part-time with constant cash flow, you do take on everything that comes through the door, sort of thing.
Well, you do, and you even saw it in my chaotic life. We're just even getting onto this, onto our call.
Mm.
Yeah, I had another meeting going simultaneously. I'm setting it up. I've got a conference call going on. Like, I leave myself time, but I still, whenever I see available minutes, I'm like, holy fuck, I need to be doing things. And it just, I don't understand what that is, because if I try and sit
Yeah,
down and rest and relax, all I see is shit that I need to do.
yeah,
And I don't know if this is something that you experience, but I really struggle with like being kind to myself and allowing myself to have a minute, because I sit down, I'll be like 2 minutes, and I'll be like, holy fuck, if I don't do these things, like they won't get done, and then the whole world will explode.
exactly. Yeah,
Like really, really
100%. Yeah,
rational thinking.
yeah. Like I've got every week I've got edits to do, but then I've got old jobs that were love jobs that have always been in the back of the head. Like, fuck, I need to do these jobs eventually. I need to, no, sorry, not jobs, like other videos that I need to finish off. And yeah, you sit down and have a little bit of break. I'm like, I could be editing right now. I could be doing this. I got to, if I can get all this stuff up here, plan for the next event that's, around the corner. And I almost live, when I'm not spending time with the family, I'm in this office editing, editing. And, yeah. What's the saying for, you want to work less, you're 9 to 5, so you quit. So now you work 24/7.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
something along the
one.
lines of that.
And the
Yeah.
danger with self-employment, and this is the thing that I've found and I've done and I've seen, is it's a prison of your own making. It is effectively what it can become, where you are just trapped by it, by the thing that you always wanted. But because you have to work so hard to do it, and you have to do it all, and help is so hard to find, you end up doing everything. And learning to let go of parts of it is very difficult.
It's so difficult. Yeah. Like I've had loads of friends and family are just like, oh, why don't you just hire someone, get someone to go film this, or, get someone to edit the videos, or at least, start culling it and doing stuff like that. I'm like, I can't let go. And it's so hard to explain them. I can't let go of my stuff. And it's my name, Scott Mitchell Media. If I get someone to go film this event, I get the footage back, and I've done it a couple of times, and I look at the footage, I'm like, where's all the people interactions? Where's this? And then why were you filming like this? I almost get like frustrated with it all. I'm like, then I can't not let me be the one to film it. And then when it came to editing, like when I had a good backlog of weddings, like I'd pay a few different people to try and edit, and I'd get the edit back. And like, no offense to those editors, and once again, my shit's not perfect, but I'd look at it and go, I don't like this. And I'd, think that job's done, but then I have to put this one that I'm working on hold and go back to this edited video and almost re-edit it again. And, I'm too nice to say I'm not happy with it. And it's also like, I don't know if you experience it as well. It's hard to tell someone what you want because it's all cooking up in here. But when it comes to when you're speaking, you're like, no, I want this shot here. And then it does not, it does, how you want to explain it in your brain does not come out of your mouth.
That's what I
Um,
find, particularly communicating with my wife, is that I can be so eloquent in a conversation like this, but then when I'm
yeah.
trying to explain something that matters, I'm like the thing, and I can't monitor my tone as well, so it all comes out monotone, and I'm like, we need to lift the thing to make it go the way. Can't you see what I'm trying to do? Like I can't. Yeah, whereas I can sing and dance like a trained monkey, like just out of my ass, but I
Yeah.
can't communicate important things in real
Yeah.
time without
Yeah. Real time.
sounding
Yeah.
like I'm Troppo. So
Yeah. Yeah, I legit, my phone is just full of lists of things to remember. Like Grace at school now, we've got her doing see, here's my memory trying to think. We got
Mm.
her 4 days doing before care and after school care. And I legit will get to a morning. I'm like, is she going to before school? And she's like, yeah, of course. She's been going to school for almost a year now. I'm like, look at my phone. I'm like, oh yeah, Tuesday, yeah, before school care. And you know, obviously the frustration's there, but like, I'm not doing it on purpose. Like, I
No.
legit struggle with the simple.
I don't know what day of the week it is. I routinely don't know what month it is. I don't know what year it is. I have to count on my fingers to know what month it is because I can't, like, in
Yep.
my head, like, it's terrible. And just these things that are so simple, I'm like, oh nine, what month is that? And I go January, February,
Yep.
March, April, May,
Got to
June,
do
July.
that.
And I have to, like, count on my fingers because I can't retain two bits of information.
Yep.
And I've got the memory processing as well. Interestingly, yeah, it's really weird. Like, so I have no short term, like like your RAM, like
Yeah.
the stuff that retains that just doesn't work. And so, in particular for my wife, she will tell me something and it'll be like potato,
Gone.
yeah,
Absolutely gone. Yeah.
just
Like we've
gone, and
got
it's not
four
there.
slots of RAM, but we've got one in the middle that's slightly broken and twisted. And that's yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
they just
legit.
don't work, and they don't
Yeah.
work, and it's what the same as you. I've got everything now grouped into Asana, but I still have Google Notes and stuff because I'll hit that faster. But I've tried to move it all into project management software so that it's at least organised into one
Yeah.
place, and I've got people in there that help me with it because it just all becomes so hard because I still run multiple businesses. And so I've got
Yeah.
multiple businesses, multiple people, multiple contractors, people around the world, like multiple time zones, plus family. And like, I don't know if I'm coming or going. And I'll be like, what are we doing
Yeah.
on Saturday? And she's like, we're doing da 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 da. And she's like, I just told you this yesterday. I'm like, mate,
Yep.
I'm like trying to figure out the next hour. I
Yeah.
don't worry about Saturday's schedule until it's Saturday.
Exactly. And then it's too late to book dinner because you've
Yeah. I'm
oh
like,
yeah.
oh. And
Yeah.
it's a real odd thing that stuff that is so simple is so complex and it just doesn't exist there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not there. And I can't explain that any better than it doesn't work. It's not there. I know most people can do it, but I can't. And you know, my really talented creative friends, they fucking can't either. And guess what? It's because we've all got the bloody neurospice.
We've got the tism, mate. We've got the tism.
Mate, the tism, I bloody love the tism. But in all seriousness, it is the gift. It is the gift as to why we see things in a way. And it is why people resonated with your films, is that despite the fact that you burn yourself into the ground worrying about that bump, it is no different to what the masters of film do when they create, a piece of work. They are. You read about any of the greats of filmmaking, and it talks about how rigid they are, how stuff must be this way, it must be done in this manner, and like they'll just freak out and blast people if it's not, because they have such a clear vision in their heads of how it will be and how they need the performance to be and how they need it to look, so that what they create and put out into the world doesn't distract you from the story. You're not looking at it and being jolted out of that experience because of something, some weird movement or something that's not supposed to be there, or, this is the 1940s, there shouldn't be a Tesla there. It's really important for a person to be immersed in the story. And that is something that you and I feel. And that's something that I find really weird whenever I, production work or that sort of thing. As I look through a lens and I see the world through a lens, I feel the shot and I'm like, oh my God, that feels beautiful. You know, the light, the tone, the movements, the expressions, all of it. It feels beautiful. And that's always been my comment to people I've worked with in any of my creative projects. I'm like, if you're going to show me something and you look at it and you don't think it's beautiful, don't bother showing it to me. Whereas if you think it's beautiful, then show it to me.
Yeah.
And because I find that that excessiveness where we go back and we redo things again and again and again and again, that's what makes the work so special. That's why somebody else who doesn't know these people will watch one of your videos and cry. They can't explain it. You know, the je ne sais quoi, the I don't know what, but there is an emotional connection to the work because you feel those moments and you have a way of transferring that feeling that other people can't get. And they'll try to mimic it and they'll try to do it the same, but they don't feel it. And they can do the thing. They can make the music and make it cut and make the cameras do the things.
Have all the gear.
All the shit. But they lack that emotional intelligence that tears us to pieces.
Yeah.
That emotional intelligence is what allows you to create great art. That has certainly been, one of my larger breakthroughs over the last few years is trying to make peace with all this stuff, trying to understand it, be accepting of it, understand that I need a nap in the afternoons because I've been going till 1 or 2 a.m, then I sleep for a few hours, then I'm going at full noise. And it's a schedule that's very difficult to maintain. But now that I'm able to, again, explain in words better to colleagues, friends, my wife, what I am experiencing and go, look, I'm not being lazy. I just, everything, it all works because I only have 2 speeds. I've got 100 and then I've got nothing. And I have no variation between those 2 speeds.
Yep. Yeah, that's it, man. And I'm having it right now. I was just about to interrupt and now I'm trying to remember what I was going to say.
And it's so hard because we just blurt stuff out. And I actually say that to people now. And it honestly, it's actually part of what's made me good at my marketing over the years is that I don't mind offending people. And when I have the idea, it just goes out of me. And that is learning to harness that bolt of lightning, like we're Marty McFly and Doc Brown, and being able to channel that 1.21 gigawatts into good purpose. When you can capture it, control it, funnel it, it's extraordinary. But most of the time, it's just like going bzz, 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 and just throwing things all over, out into the ether.
It's always going, it's the switching off. Like to people that, are able to switch off, let's say switching off from work. So they got their 9 to 5, they finish at 5, they drop what they're doing, they come home. Unless you're like a business owner where you still have to think about that business, you finish at 5, you come home and you're off. You can do whatever. Whereas, same with you is that, you might have your working hours and you'll come home. In your back of your brain is like, okay, I've got to edit this. I need to plan for this next shoot. I need to organize all these clients, all this sort of stuff like that. And you got to worry about, all right, I got to invoice this one. So they're going to pay for my cash flow. And I can never switch off. I'm assuming the same with you where you just can't switch off. And people are like, have you tried meditating? Have you tried just going outside and just sitting down or going for a walk? That is boring. I cannot sit still.
It's so inefficient.
Fidget. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm wasting time not doing work or doing things. And
I'll make you laugh. I'm going to look it up because I had to check. I've been meditating now for a number of years as people go, oh, you need to meditate and you need to gratitude. And I'm like, yeah, well, fuck you. I looked at it the other day because it tells me I use the Calm app just because I actually find it easy and like I don't have to do much. Like I hit 2 buttons and then I can start doing the thing. I have meditated 252 days. I've done 285 sessions and I've done 51 hours and 17 minutes of meditation since I started. So there you go, 50 hours of sitting and focusing on my thoughts, allowing my thoughts to run away, acknowledging that I allow them to run away, and then bringing them back. And it's funny, it's a fucking pain in the ass, and I hate it, much the same as I hate getting up and going to the gym, but I do the fucking thing, and I keep doing the thing, and you make the muscle stronger. And even though it is always annoying, it is another one of those things that, again, I get angry and irritated about, much the same as you. Whereas I'm irritated that I have to take medication every day just to function as most people can and take for granted that they can just like get out of bed and
Do the thing.
just like
Do the adult,
just
yeah.
do stuff. I'm like, well, fuck you, do that. I've got to take meds for that. I've got to see a psych. Like at the moment, I'm seeing somebody weekly because I've been so troppo that if I don't, like, I went therapy for 7 years, mate. And I can, when I'm doing well, I can get it down to monthly. But at this point, I'm at weekly just to be able to stay on top of myself. Because if I let it get out of hand or if I stop seeing my therapist for a couple of months, I just go down the googler.
Bit of a downward spiral, yeah.
And I've got huge anger and frustration that's how I have to live my life, is that to present as somebody who has got it together, I have to work my fucking ass off and do so many fucking things just to hit a baseline of 0 to be okay, like not to be good, but to get from -10, where I'm at the bottom of the abyss, to 0, which is okay, to, +10 where you're like peaking and you're at the thing, doing the thing, living the dream.
Yeah.
The amount of work I've got to do to get from -10 to 0 on a daily basis is fucking exhausting. Like, I find that fucking exhausting. And that's sort of been the last few months, is just the grief and the struggle of just having to, like, how hard it is, how hard I have to work before I do any of the thousands of other things I need to do to make sure that there's a dollar coming in, like just to function. And I've got a lot of frustration around that. So, and I think that's the thing. And with this podcast, a lot of the sort of people I enjoy talking with, Scotty, are people like yourself, like me, who didn't fit in, tried to do things, hated them, or just went, this just isn't what speaks to me.
Yeah.
And then you found the thing that spoke to you. And despite the fact that it's a terrible idea and that it's hard and it nearly kills you, you do the fucking thing anyway because you can't imagine anything else.
Anything else. Yeah, that's exactly right. And, as you're saying, like, doing a podcast and being able to actually speak about it, you don't realize how many other people are actually in the same boat and haven't started that journey of going to a doctor and getting diagnosed. And I, a couple of years ago, put an Instagram, I think I did quite a few different stories just to, I guess, tell people about what I was going through, getting diagnosed, and explaining to everyone of how I had to do day to day, like how I was, I guess, struggling day to day and what I had to do just to get shit done. And I had at least 50 people contact me on Instagram thanking me for being, being so brave, which I didn't at the time didn't think of, like, being brave. What's, ADHD, what's wrong with that? But like, a lot of people think that ADHD, there's something wrong with you. You're broken. Like, and people don't want to go get diagnosed and have a label saying, yeah, I'm on Ritalin, I've got ADHD, he's got the tism. And I just had so many people reach out and thank me for speaking about it, because they're going through the same things. They're struggling. They can't even function. And you know, I had a few people like Dan and Tassie that said, you know, we went and, you know, went and got diagnosed, found out I've got this, and now I'm on Ritalin, and my life is just that much better. And I'm so glad that I'm finally doing something about it. And, you know, a bit of a heartfelt moment knowing that, you know, you're talking about your loss to the world for people to view it as. You know, it's been quite rewarding to know that you're helping people in a way. That, you know, whilst there's something wrong with you, you're not broken. You can still, you know, there's time to fix it, time to, you know, get back on track and be able to function like, you know, a normal person would. But yeah, speaking about it now, like, you know, I can imagine quite a lot of people will watch this and be able to relate to us. And, you know,
totally.
it's a great thing. Yeah.
Mate, drifting is the most neuro sport I've ever seen. Now that I know what I know, I look at all the people I know in drifting and I'm like, it's you and 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 you. Like,
Yeah.
it's all of us, because we didn't fit in other places, and we'd go to, you know, other motorsports where you like had to be serious and stuff.
Yeah.
And you go to drifting and you're just like, yeah, fucking whatever. Like, as long as you're a good dude and you're a good human and you're a good person and you're just reasonable and kind and help and have a good time and have fun and do it your way. These are all the things that I love, how unconventional and like just try and make it cool, and the self-expression and the art and the creativity, and, you know, getting fucking cars that are like slammed and big wheels and rubbing and all the things, and like so dumb, but it looks cool, so we do it, even though it's like wrong in every way, in every sense. Be like, I don't care, it's fucking sick. Because I went and did other things, Scotty. I went and did GT and all these other things, thinking that you got to keep, you know, keep climbing the ladder. And today, in the year 2024, I'm back in and around drifting because it's the best. There's a whole other, you know, there's all these other people now who found their way to it, saw what it was, saw what it stands for, and have, you know, carried that torch. And going back to it, it feels like home.
Yeah.
And it's really special that it's held on to that. And I know it's got all its other things, but there is a sameness to the sort of people that are drawn to it. And you find your people there. And that has been probably one of the nicest realizations, is that I initially looked at it as like, oh, well, that's the only motorsport I could get myself involved in because nobody would take me seriously anywhere else. Whereas drifting, you just turned up, and because there was no money and no nothing, and like you were just there to have a good time. Like,
the pressures of like, oh, you got to deliver this. You could get,
didn't matter.
You'd be more creative. You could do what you wanted.
Do what the
have
fuck
a bit
you wanted.
of fun and stuff.
It was your time, your money, your gear. It just didn't matter. And I realised that was very much like a creative renaissance, because you could just, like, it was just for you. It was literally, you made shit that you liked. And I've recently got really into audiobooks because it saves time and I can do more than one thing at once. And I'm most of the way through Rick Rubin's book, if you're familiar with him.
I've got a
Mate.
I've got a small brain, like small circle in my brain. I know I should be reaching out and, like, not to sidetrack what we're talking about right now, but
Sidetrack away.
Sidetrack away. Jesus. I know I should be like looking at people that are really well established and looking at their work and all that sort of stuff like that, and like not trying to do what they're doing, but like take notes and like progress in that. But I tend to beat myself up a little bit. Like, I'll watch someone else, let's say Lauren in HD over in the States. So, he does phenomenal work. And I'll watch his edits and I'll be like, I'll look at my stuff and I'll go, this is fucking potato compared to his. And then I'm like, I don't want to watch this because I'm not doing that level, and I almost don't want to watch the greats do things because I guess start beating myself up and like, why can't I do this? What I don't know. I think I seem to keep my circle around me where I should be, learning more, and rather than trying to beat myself up about it all. But
Because you have to ask yourself, where is that coming from?
yeah, yeah, tease 'em. So continue on with the man that I
No, there's no
probably
good story
should
here.
know of,
But you should. So Rick Rubin is a producer. He was responsible. So like Beastie Boys, their sort of breakthrough album in the
Yep.
80s, and then went on, Chili Peppers and like so much stuff. Slayer, Jay-Z, like just goes on and on and on. And like, mate, he's a big, beardy dude who just clearly got the spice, but like can pick the vibe and has the idea and knows how to turn it into words and knows how to control the room and knows how to tell, other artists that are spiraling or lost and go, dickhead, this. And System of a Down, that fucking enormous hit of theirs, there's a line about, in the chorus where they're like, oh, fuck, what do we put here? And he's like, grab a book off the shelf, open the book. And it's this amazing line, and it's just fucking random out of a book, and then they threw it in the song and they're like, oh yeah, that works. Just a master of the art of understanding and being sympathetic to the way that we operate as creatives.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I take away from these things. Because don't get me wrong, mate, I too look at other work. I still remember when Drive to Survive came out that I started watching it for like 3 minutes and I had to fucking turn it off because I couldn't handle that. That used to be part of my world, global top tier motorsport, and I had to let that go. And I walked away from it and just stopped. And watching, race teams and all this sort of stuff, like that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Seeing those things. And
Yeah, someone coming in at, 21, 22 and watching the edits they do, it's just, it's a bit toxic, but you're just like, fuck, that is so much better than what I'm doing. And then you just, you switch it off. You're like,
it's too much. And it
you
hurts.
beat yourself up.
One of the lovely things that Rick talks about is that you make it for yourself. You make your thing for yourself. People don't know what they want. And you just make it the best you can for you. And then you just put it out to the world. And you don't think about it from there. And because that process of the self-loathing and hating the own work and looking at other people's things and then using that as a benchmark that is simply arbitrary, because there would be young people that look at you and go, God damn it, how come, he's like with Hit and Run DC and does this and knows those people and goes to the States and been to this mad shit, and like they look at not knowing your pain, they look at what you've done and go, man, I hope one day I could do the mad shit that Scott Mitchell's done. And that's the struggle, is that from your frame of reference, you know how much shit you've had to eat and how hard it still is to this moment. Whereas there are people wishing that they could have a fraction of the access that you have, and the people that you know, and the fact that you can just rock up to all these places and all these cool things. Because as we get older, all the people we know end up in charge of things. And then you're just like, hey, what's up? Can you hook us up with this? And they're like, yeah, buddy, no worries. And those decades of experience open doors that don't exist for other people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that stuff, because I'm discovering this too, is that I've realised that, well, I realised that a little while ago, like I'm not as good as, like I thought I was all right and I was okay at a few things, but other people are so much better than me. What I'm good at is I'm good at producing, orchestrating, creating, seeing the idea, I'm actually better off to let go of the creative part and just, I had to look it up on Wikipedia, and the word was produce,
Yeah.
where you become the conductor of the orchestra rather than trying to play every fucking instrument in the orchestra all at once and then assemble it
Yep.
in post in, in tears.
In tears.
For a month and then hate it and
Yep.
then like work it into the ground. And then by the
Start
time
again.
you're still watching it 4 weeks later, you just want to smash your computer with a brick because you hate it so much because you watched it so many times and all you can see in it is the faults, and you'll show somebody else and they'll watch it for the first time and go, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And you're there going,
Yep.
oh my God, did you see the pixel there and the blacks in that weren't right and the balance wasn't right and the light wasn't there and I should have moved like this and not that, and oh my God, did you hear that glitch in the audio? And they're like, huh?
What are you talking about? Yeah. No,
What?
you're absolutely
What the
preaching.
fuck?
Absolutely preaching exactly that, man. Like,
It,
yeah, you're not happy, and I don't know whether if
you just hate it. You hate all of it.
yeah.
And I reached a point where I just hated everything, and I hated everything I made, and I stopped sharing things and I stopped putting stuff out there. And I don't know if you've seen, like, if you've actually watched any of the shit I've done the last few years, that is also like my post-COVID rebellion, because I'm like, oh, well, if
Yep.
the world can fucking shut down and decimate my business and, not important, doesn't matter, what I do doesn't matter, I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want. And
Yeah.
what I
Go in the
started
full
doing,
drive world and
mate, I shoot and edit on my phone. I use CapCut. I, like, to the best of my ability, don't use other equipment. And I focus on what I see and then using what I have to capture what I see. And I have found that really freeing, and people lay into you on the internet, as you would well know. YouTube comments are not a place you go for self-esteem, because people really fucking give it to you. And I'm okay with that because that is a reflection of them, not a reflection of me.
yeah. Yeah,
And
that's it. Yeah.
like the self-acceptance and the just going, fuck it.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a process, mate.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking about being a producer, like being able to let go of the whole creative side of things, as you said, like someone else can take that on and do it for you. I still can't seem to find a way to, I guess, communicate to hire someone and tell them, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to create, can you go do this, but you'll have to shoot it this way. I still am still working that out, still shooting by myself, still editing by myself, but yeah, trying to play every single fucking instrument in the whole catalog.
But there's a
Something
funny
I need to
thing.
learn.
There's a funny thing that happens, and generally we don't change until the pain becomes bad enough. And this is always the hard part, is that we can actually put up with a hell of a lot, and not bother to change anything until something sort of breaks catastrophically.
Yep.
And it's so hard to do. This is the thing. Like, it took me a long time to let go. Like, I'm talking years. And
Yeah.
it doesn't make it easier. I just got better at doing it. I got better at being okay with it. I got better at not finessing everything, because like I would give my own feedback on every edit every time, always changing stuff, always fucking with it. Whereas what I have learned is the people that I work with them because I think their work is beautiful. And who am I to question what you think is beautiful? And
Yeah.
so by working with people who I respect them and I respect their craft by allowing them to present. And all I say to them is just make it beautiful. If you don't think it's beautiful, don't show it to me. If you think it's beautiful, because I've learned that if you can show people, but you got to do it 10 times.
Yeah.
and they won't get it right the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, but by the 10th, they'll get there. And that's the
Yeah.
frustration is we're like, well, fuck, I can do this so quickly. Why the fuck can't you do it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And then, 10 tries, you're well overdue for delivering the project to the client. So you kind of like, you give up and you're just like, all right, I got to do it. I got to do it myself. I got to do this.
And that's
And
the one. And I bring in people on low value jobs, or part of what I do with my other little, KLTD brand is I have people that do stuff for me in that, and it's just for myself. It's just
yeah.
for my own dumb shit. So if it's a hot steaming pile of garbage, it doesn't affect my client relationships.
Yeah.
That's like my adventure playground for stupidity,
Yeah.
where you can just try stuff and fuck it up and make it dumb and unprofessional, because that way I can test people on things that have no real. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it crashes and burns, because exactly as you said, it's your name on the
Yeah.
door, and if that person turns up representing for you and they fucking shit the bed as hard as I've had people shit the bed for me, it's very embarrassing and it's very hard to undo.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not their name on it. They're just there for that hourly rate. They shoot it, they dump it. Okay, here you go. Where's my payment? And yeah, there's no repercussions for them. They might
Nah,
just not get hired again, but
correct. They never
whereas
get.
it's your name. And for clients wise, it could be something very high up corporate, or it could be your friend's small business. No matter, you still want to put the same amount of love and attention, even if it is something very different on the scale of an importance. You still pour your heart into it, and
You
having
do.
someone else not have the care, it's like fuck.
I
Yeah,
don't know if you have this, but to me the dollars don't matter. I actually don't give a fuck. I actually don't want to charge people for work. I don't know if that,
I hate talking
but
about money.
like
I hate it.
yeah, I don't do this to make money. Like nobody in their right mind would do this to make money. But that is actually my least favourite part of the process. Is I don't enjoy the transaction of creativity. That part of it brings me no joy. It's just something that you have to get good at.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Like trying to go film an event for a team or something like that, or someone, they're not out there making big money. They're out there having a bit of fun and shit. And like, it's always been hard to like, oh, okay, well, I spent 11 hours on the day, and then, not your fault. My brain took me another 2 days to edit, this 3-minute video. Here's my hourly rates. Then I'm like, oh fuck, this is a lot for something they're just doing for fun. And then I hate talking about money. I'm like, oh, we'll just do it for this much. And I always just probably undercut myself for the amount of time I spend on it. But yeah, I hate talking money, charging people, even though it is my source of income. Yeah,
And
it's a hard thing to do.
that's part of our self-sabotage and our self-loathing, is that we don't think that we're worthy. And
Yeah,
it is a very painful thing, and it's something that I kept seeing, as I did more and more producing, was that getting better at that actually ended up benefiting other creatives,
yeah,
and getting more confident at those conversations and what your skill is worth. It is worth something. Like the fact that you can come in and do something so exceptional, whereas they can get some kid who's just having a go, and like they'll do a good job, but it won't be the magnificence of a Scott Mitchell production. Like, yeah, the same way I
yeah,
got you. You'll remember that you came up and did those events at Archerfield for me,
yeah,
because there was no one else that I knew there was no one else that could make it the way that you could make it.
yeah.
There's no one that sees the world the way that you see the world, and that world in particular. And
That will, yeah,
like there's magic in it, because they're not just cars to you, they're not just people, like they're your friends and they're works of art, and it means something to you to make that beautiful.
Yeah, and it's also like the memories as well. Like I think one of the probably probably the biggest things that I enjoy about filming or creating, capturing things is we're not going to always have, well, we've never had the good memory, but like looking back, these are the times, the good times that you'll forget. Whereas if you've got videos of the event or whatever that was happening, being able to watch it again and live it again, I find so much enjoyment of capturing memories that people can just look back over and over and over again and reliving it, So just, yeah, the memory capturing is probably one of the bigger things. Um,
Well, it's special. It is
yeah,
so special. And to have that database of things and of experiences and videos and capturing those moments, because you do forget and you end up
yeah,
doing so much, and we have so much trouble remembering things anyway. Like, I have stuff pop up that I don't even remember that I did, but when it
yeah,
pops up, I remember the wars that I fought to make that piece, and
yeah,
the meetings and the arguments and the battles and the fighting to get things done a certain way, and fighting with everything, anything, because of the vision that I had to make something a certain way.
yeah,
And it's fucking wild. But you reach a point where you've done so much you can't even remember what you've done.
yeah, yeah. Yes. Oh man.
It's fucking wild, this shit, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm just thinking back of like, I've had, quite a fair few jobs that had, you know, I guess turnaround times where they needed it by X amount. But getting it done your way took 6, 8 times longer than what they wanted, and uh, you're not doing it on purpose, or you're not doing the job. It's just the way that you do it takes a lot of time, and you want it to be perfect for yourself to be happy, for the client to be happy. Because yeah, I've certainly had plenty of late jobs. Like I can't remember what year it was, but Halfway Hangs. It always came around to like the next following year of the event popping up, and yeah, it's unprofessional and embarrassing to have something delivered so late. Because yeah, once again, you're not doing it on purpose, but
No, mate. We just got to own it and just go, fuck it. Do you know what? They're lucky to get anything ever
yeah.
from your, particularly when you're doing it for
And
love.
when you deliver the video, they're just fucking blown away. So it's like, yes, timing timing could always be a lot better, but the quality that I try and make sure that I produce is always there. I don't want to fucking rush something and just get it out there so it's done, because like you've already said for yourself, you watch stuff back and you hate it even though it's great, but you don't want to put it out there that you already are going to hate, because yeah, pick yourself.
And you learn so
Yeah,
much and you improve so much. And I'm sure you find this, well, actually, you said it, like your sister's wedding video, like the first one you did. I look back at anything that I've made over the years and each thing, and I remember at that moment in time, you'd be so proud of whatever the thing was. And I look back
yeah.
and I'm like, ugh, I can't believe I was ever proud of
Oh,
this. I can't believe I showed people this. I'm like, ugh. It,
yeah,
yeah. You're like, because it is a constant evolving process,
yeah,
and we are not kind to ourselves. And I find that, like, the trailer load of stuff that you carry along behind you then really starts to affect that work. Whereas
yeah,
when you can sort of unshackle that trailer of self-doubt and, failure and all the things that you've done and fucked up and forgotten and, dragged out or whatever, and people have gotten upset, and it's like, no, well, fuck them. Fuck everybody. Like, this is me. This is my work. I'm not perfect. I will do the best that I can to the best of my ability. And if I fuck it up, I'll do my very best to fix it. I'm not out here to cause trouble.
Yeah.
This is just me. And if you want something special, that's part of the price. Part of the price is the process is complex as well. And either you want that or you don't. And if you're not comfortable with that, use somebody else. And they're words that become easier to say the more that you say them, oddly enough. And rather than saying yes to lots of stuff, saying no to lots of stuff has actually, I've found, opened more doors by becoming more selective about things that I've chosen.
Yeah. You can actually focus and spend the time versus putting 10% to, lots of little things. You can put at least 70%
You can try
into something.
But it's mate, the creative journey, I don't think it gets easier. And I see it in my friends. And I was with a friend of mine the other day who's an artist, and he's like, that's what he does. He's a full-time artist. He makes art. He does paintings and murals, and he's having an enormous creative block. And he's like, I just don't know what's wrong. I can't make the thing, and I know what to do, and I want to, and it won't.
Stuck.
I can't do the thing.
Do it.
And I've certainly seen that when you commercialise art, it rips the joy out of it because of client expectations, complaints, refunds, fights, all that shit. And it's not fun. Whereas like the drifting stuff was always fun, and like you'd get a new toy or a new camera or a new something, and you're like, fuck, let's try this. And you ask somebody, can I just put this shit inside your car? And they're like, fuck yeah, you can. Like everything's just always hell yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas in commercial, no way.
Yeah, I can remember. Oh, I just lost an ear. I can, remember. I'm not going to say I was going to be the first, but you use your action cams and your GoPros and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm not happy with this footage. Let's run my $4,000 camera and let's suction mount that to the side of the car. I'll do something like that, and yeah, just pushing that little bit of boundary and being able to do stuff yourself. And then you look at the footage, you're like, that was so worth trying something different, like 2012 World Time Attack Challenge. I bought myself a little small jib. And I don't think anyone was using gimbals and stuff back then.
2015 was when they came out.
Yeah. So I can remember a photo of me walking through at World Time Attack, and I had the tripod, the jib with weights, and then the camera on the other hand. And then like the amount of fucking around to set that up just to get a couple of like elevated and lowering shots just with a jib. Yeah, like there's no real point. But like then the shots that you got, you were over the moon, and people like hadn't seen that stuff before. And then like even the sliders, like getting a slider back then, having one of those back then. Yeah, everyone's just like, what's this?
Going, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Incredible.
Just having that freedom to push and do more of your creative things without having that limitations. Yeah.
Yeah. And rather than the recipe book, and I think that's where like how you were running a camera car the other day, like doing those sorts of things with the drift cars, with that sort of stuff. Like going back, I bought myself a VHS camera recently and set that up, and I'm running around playing with that. Because again, there's no rules, it's pointless, it's fun, and I just enjoy it. And it's just what it makes is hot garbage, but I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
And that is so fucking necessary. Because
Yeah,
if it's not getting that little spark and that little bit of, oh shit, I wonder what's going to happen. Whereas we end up with a recipe book where we know exactly what's going to happen, and we just follow the recipe every time to get the, and it just takes some of that
not of it.
magic out of it. Yeah, so that we don't
Yeah,
fuck it up and fuck up the job and not be able to deliver it because
yeah,
we missed something that was like plainly obvious that we know how to do.
yeah, yeah. I think yeah, you always try and limiting yourself from that, but oh man.
Mate, it's always the same, and this is why we've just got to keep playing. Are you coming up to Matsuri in Queensland, or are you doing like sensible father things?
I think I'm doing sensible things. That's because which that's the last month. No,
It's this month
the
sometime, I think.
second weekend of or second or third weekend next month.
Yeah, I think so. Or October, which is like today, I discovered.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah, it's the first today.
Like,
Wow,
shit.
I'm pretty sure it's still July or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
I thought it was January. But
yeah, I haven't been up to do a Queensland Matsuri in a long time. Obviously, with weddings because that took every single weekend that I had an event on. But then all of my hit and run mates and all that sort of stuff, they retired and all that sort of stuff. So Queensland Matsuri pops up. Like, am I going to fly up by myself? Am I going to drive up by myself? It's no longer the same
no, it's not the same.
journey of hanging out with. I'm sure there'll be mates up in Queensland already there going to Matsuri, but um, yeah, it'll be a completely different process of arriving there. There's no journey to it. It's just get there, start filming. Um, yeah, and I think the last Matsuri was 16. I think was the last Queensland Matsuri I did.
Wow.
I think yeah, so it's been a long time since I've actually been up for one, and then sadly, I think a lot of when I do ask people about Queensland Matsuri, they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's just full of commos and falcons, getting around, and you can no longer have parties in the pits and all this sort of stuff, and it's all limited." And then I guess my brain's like, "Oh, limitations of having fun. Ooh, that's a hard one." And then family man, I've got to think about if I'm going to be going away for a weekend where it's going to cost me flights, accommodation, travel, all this sort of stuff. I've got to try and make a profit out of it because it is my business. This is my income. These trips away, I need to make money out of it. My time is very valuable, and to, try and pitch to someone at Queensland Matsuri, whether if they're driving a Falcon, they're not in potentially any position to go spend 2.5 grand, 3 grand to, the whole kit and caboodle to come up and do it. So yeah, all of the interstate, fun activities I can't quite make. So
See, it rips the
and
fun out of it. Hey, do me a favour. Put a little pencil mark in your diary for Australia Day weekend next year. There might be something slightly closer to you that I absolutely don't know about that might be worth considering. So,
do I ask what week Australia Day is?
fuck knows. If you just Google 2025, I'll send you a calendar invite after this.
Yeah, fucking, I should. Yeah,
Because,
Australia Day. I should know.
yeah, we got to bring the power back. There's
Yeah.
there's things happening. Let me just tell you that much.
Well, there's meant to be so the Boost mobile for the 500 GC 500. There's been that drift event or drift comp they're calling it. That's meant to be happening during that, and I've had a couple of people, Brody Moore down in Tassie with Drift League, and Matty Hill that will be going up to do the drift demos or drift comp, but they're like, we've got sponsors, we've got this sort of stuff happening up there. Do you want to come up and film it? And I'm like, oh, that would be pretty good, but it's also V8 supercars. Like, I need to find out my limitations. Like, am I allowed to film the track, or is it only going to be pits? if I can only film the pits, how am I going to create a Scott Mitchell video recap for you guys if it's GoPro and a bit of pit stuff? And
because you
it's
make
something I
magic,
definitely want to do.
and you need to be thrown into that place where you actually have less, not more. That's what I reckon,
Yeah.
Scotty.
Yeah. So less limitations, and I can be a free bird
Yeah,
to
I like.
run amok and do it, sort of thing. So
Got to be honest with you, that drifting thing, I heard about that, the walls talk, and I heard about that a little while ago, and I was very excited. I've been hanging for that announcement
yeah,
because that's very, very, very good for the sport and very good for people like yourself. Yeah, who, as you said, you are well positioned to do something insane. And if supercars were smart, they'd actually be engaging you as, one
yeah,
of the gun drift production producers to be involved in making something ridiculous and giving you access all areas. So we
yeah,
should probably talk to a few people about that and go,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think what so it's I'm not sure who's behind the actual drift comp itself. I think with like Rob White and stuff like that.
yeah,
Who's
it's all people we know, mate.
yeah,
It's all the OGs. Josh Botcher's back out there, mate. There's things we'll have to converse off the air.
yeah,
But Scotty, do you know what's crazy? I am going to have to start winding this up because I could talk to you all day, but would you believe I was like, no, that's heaps of time. Like, because, mate,
yeah. I can't believe how quickly that's the time's kind of rolled
this
around.
is the thing that I say to people. I go, put your phone down, just talk. And they're like, how the fuck do you talk for 3 hours? I'm like, mate, we could talk for 3 days.
Yeah,
Once you block out the rest of the world and you engage, holy fuck, how good is meandering conversation?
yeah. As long as we can circle back to what we're actually talking about and not get so twisted down in a spiral of things. But
No, mate, side quests, rabbit holes, spirals, like all the things. These are my favourite things. I used to think they were a problem. And I
yeah,
had a business coach a few years ago who told me, what does he say? He's like, stop focusing on all the shiny balls. And I'm like, no, because I tried. I tried that for a year, and that was like the worst year of my life. That was a bit like 2019-ish. And now I actually, in my organisation of things, I actually have a little segment where I put the dumb shit that I'm doing, like all my side quests. I allocate time per thing, but I actually have an allocation for stupid shit because that's where the magic comes from for me,
yeah,
is like pull the thread, see what happens. And if it goes nowhere, doesn't fucking matter. But that is actually part of the process. Like the same as going, fuck, I'm going to stick my $4,000 camera on the side of a car and see what fucking happens. Send it.
yeah.
And like that, because like that terror of fucking that up, like the risk versus reward, but then you pull it off and you're like, fuck, yes.
Well, yeah, absolutely worth
Like
it.
this
Yeah, exactly
matters.
right. Yeah,
And those calculated risks matter. And as an owner, entrepreneur, whatever you call it, if you are not like calculated risks is what gets you to where you become a functional business. And when you stop taking them, that's when I personally found that I would slip back creatively, which is
yeah,
why I've now added them into part of my process where like I just have to do dumb shit and see what happens because that is part of what made me good in the first place. And when I
yeah,
stop doing it and I just try to be a fucking factory where I just pump out the same shit, I'm like, well, why don't I just go and fucking work for somebody else?
yeah.
Like,
That's it. Yeah,
what's the point of all this? Because it's just a job now.
yeah.
Whereas if you add in the flavours of silly,
That's what people want to see different stuff. Yeah, that's it. You can't let that go. So
now, Scotty, if people want to find your stuff, follow your stuff, book you in, if V8 Supercars want to reach out, as they should, for the Boost Mobile 500 on the Gold Coast, Peter Adderton, you need to know this man, Scott Mitchell. How would they find you?
probably my best point of contact is it's sometimes like I try and not have too many different avenues of contact there. But I think Instagram, Scott Mitchell Media on Instagram is probably my best point of contact. But I've also got my website, which is www.scottmitchellmedia.com.au. I got a contact form there. Emails and Instagram are probably the best points of contact. If you try and call me with an unknown number, the anxiety kicks in, and I will sadly let it go to voicemail. It's not you, it's me. But yes.
Can I get an amen? All I want is messages because I can't. This conversation that people see from me effortlessly in this environment, when I turn this off, I go back into a functional freeze. So I am exactly the same as you, where I am routinely unable to answer a phone call because I can't construct a sentence.
Yes. And then everything that gets discussed in that phone call,
just,
all right, see you later. Sounds good. I'll send that through. And then you hang up.
Like, what did we just talk about?
What we were talking about. Yeah, what was that?
Fuck, what just happened?
It's like a routine for every phone call that I do actually answer or have to answer. I'll say, everything that we discussed, please send me an email with it, and we will talk there. And because what was said in the phone call is going to disappear.
Correct.
Very quickly.
To the 300 other things I'm currently doing.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Scotty, I am really grateful that you've made time for me. I'm really grateful that you've spoken so openly. This has been a very different conversation to what I imagined. I honestly thought we would spend a lot of time talking about the Rifto things, and we haven't actually talked that much about it. We have
I was about to say, we could keep going, man.
Mate, this is the
whole
problem.
Journey.
We could keep going forever, but what I'm discovering is that there's more than one podcast episode in people. And what I'm doing is I'll let you get past, the initial shock of coming onto a show, and then you realise that, this is actually like pretty good time. And then we'll come back and we'll do this again.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more to tell.
So much more. Like we
haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't even started. This is like Scott Mitchell part one.
Part one.
And that's okay, because I know and I appreciate how valuable your time is, which is why I have so much gratitude that you've chosen to share it with me. And I'm very sorry to Heath from Gutter to Gutter that I nabbed him first.
He had the gun. He had the gun to me. I'm sorry, Heath.
Yeah, no, I just can't help myself. But I did enjoy the comedy of that. Scotty, I'm going to let you go. Go and do some work. Go and do things that you're supposed to do. Mate, thank you for joining me on this. I'll be putting up the show notes, links, all the funny things. I'll leave it up to you to find that original Mez video, if you haven't written this down, and also a country practice.
A country practice, yep. I'll track that down. I'll remember to get hold of Mum.
Oof. I cannot wait to see those.
Yeah.
Scotty, thank you for joining me. And for those of you listening, thank you for joining us on another episode of the I'll Read Everything podcast. Catch you next time.